Hi, this is Phil Bouchard with National Title in Las Vegas, Nevada. This morning I've got Terry St. Pierre with me. Good morning, Terry.
Oh, good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you're here. Terry is our title manager here at National Title. Terry, how long have you been in the title business?
I have been in the title business for 20 years.
Wow. And all of that in Las Vegas?
All of that in Las Vegas.
Fantastic. So you've probably done quite a few title reports and recorded quite a few documents. And
I've done a couple.
And probably resolved, if not hundreds, at least dozens of title issues. Huh?
At least.
Fantastic, yeah. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. So this morning, we're going to talk about uninsured deeds. I don't know if any of you have heard that term recently, but it's a situation that we seem to be dealing with more often now than we did in the past. And Terry, you know, I'm familiar with a grant deed, a warranty deed, a quitclaim deed, a trustee's deed, but what is an uninsured deed? Explain to our friends what an uninsured deed is.
Well, an uninsured deed can be any of those types of deeds, but they are recorded by someone outside of an escrow company, outside of a title company.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a form of a deed. It could be any of those forms. It's just a deed that's recorded, I guess, not within an escrow.
Not within an escrow, that's correct.
And can you explain to us why those deeds tend to be, I mean, they're recorded, right?
They are recorded, and they do have to be notarized,
in order to be
recorded.
So Terry, what are the problem with these uninsured deeds? Why do we have an issue if they're recorded and they're notarized by a valid notary? That seems to make things kosher. I think even if you go on the assessor's website, the Clark County Assessor's website, the uninsured deed will show as the deed creating the current ownership, or the vesting as we call it.
That is true, but in Nevada particularly, there seems to be a lot of fraud.
Okay.
We have underwriting directives, we have personal experience with fraudulent deeds, where even if they're notarized, either people used a fake ID and fooled a notary into notarizing a document, or somebody signed a deed that maybe wasn't competent to sign a deed, somebody that has dementia, Alzheimer's, that weren't capable of understanding what they were signing.
So I think what you're sharing is that the notary and the county recorder and assessor, they're really not concerned with validity. They're concerned with maybe completeness of the form.
Correct. The assessor is just looking to make sure that the right party that's on title signed a deed, that it's notarized, a notary. They have their requirements to follow, but...
that makes sense, yeah. So there's no due diligence for those folks on whether a deed is valid or not.
Correct.
And I suppose because when we close a transaction, that deed is what we're insuring, right? That's the instrument that we're insuring. The buyer gets the benefit of title insurance. I guess we have to do that diligence to make sure that there's not going to be a loss, or that more importantly than there not being a loss for the title insurance company, I think, is that the buyer, their ownership isn't challenged at some point, because that could be an extremely frightening situation for just a family living in a home, right?
It really is. And what our intent at the end of the day is to protect all the parties, the buyers, the sellers, everyone. We want to make sure that title has been passed accurately to the new buyers, that they aren't going to get a letter in the mail from a seller saying, hey, I still have an interest in this property. That's very scary to somebody.
It's interesting that you bring up that word protection, because at the time that we're trying to resolve these uninsured deed issues, it doesn't always feel so protective. It feels sometimes frustrating and irritating, because we're having to reach out to people that maybe don't have a relationship anymore with the person that they gave the property to. Right?
That's correct. And I encourage people, if they are not completely familiar with somebody and it's a family member or a close friend that you are going to have continued contact with, that you don't accept an uninsured deed. It's a big argument for why to get an owner's policy, so that you don't run into an issue down the road when you go to sell your property and
Right.
someone's given you a deed and we can't find those people anymore to verify that they actually signed it.
Interesting. Okay, so we know that uninsured deeds are an issue in the title industry, not just here at National Title,
Not
or
just
even
here.
within the industry here in Southern Nevada, but the title industry as a whole around the world.
That is correct.
Where will our clients be able to find out when they open an escrow? Where and how will they find out that there's an uninsured deed on this property?
Well, they should talk to their escrow officer and their real estate agent and go over the preliminary title
Oh,
report.
geez, really? We're going to ask them to read a preliminary title report, huh?
Well,
I get it.
We're not going to ask them to interpret it, which is why they should get the help of their escrow or agent.
So, but I think a lot of our clients do read the preliminary title report, and if they have questions, they'll call and ask me or you or their escrow officer.
Absolutely.
Where on the title report are they going to see that there's an uninsured deed? Is it going to be on the front page where the vesting shows?
There are a couple of places.
Okay.
I can only speak for National Title that it should show in the vesting.
Okay.
In addition to that, there's also an exception to title.
So
As there's an item
in the
those-
subsequent pages where there's numbered items, there will be a numbered item that kind of calls attention to this uninsured
Exactly.
deed. Okay, fantastic.
And then you can see, it'll set out who the sellers, who the
Nice.
buyers,
Okay,
when it
that's
recorded.
great. So there's a vehicle there for us to find out that there is an uninsured deed. And with the preliminary title report being issued early on in the real estate transaction or early in the escrow, that gives us time to find the people, get their cooperation, get them to sign the deed, and then get it back here in time to close escrow. If we don't read our preliminary title reports and we find out about this at closing, again, we probably have a potential for a delay because the person we need may not be next door or across town.
They are very often not. They are very often have moved out of state, out of the country. There's all kinds of situations.
And we certainly get involved in the resolution. We'll prepare the deed or the affidavit if we're going to do an affidavit, and we will arrange for a notary to visit those people and help them with the signing of it and the federal expressing of the document back. We need the original to record, right?
We do, absolutely.
So very interesting stuff. So I guess if we are diligent in reading our title reports when we receive them, not at closing, we'll see in the vesting, which is on the front page where the owners of the property show, and then in the numbered items, which we refer to as exceptions in our industry, they'll be able to see that there's an uninsured deed, and then we can, as a team, go to work on finding the person, getting the affidavit signed, and getting it back to escrow in time for a timely closing, right?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, Terry, I appreciate you being here this morning. I think that we all learned a lot from you. And,
That's great. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. We'll be back with another interesting topic that'll hopefully keep you from experiencing delayed escrows. Keep in mind, in an economy with rising interest rates, a delayed escrow closing might be a canceled escrow because if the buyer is qualifying for mortgage money and the interest rate goes up, they may not qualify at the new rate or they may not choose to borrow at the new rate. If you have any questions for Terry or I, please comment below and we'll get right back to you. Thank you very much.